Welcome to Not Ready for the Farm as we explore the journey of aging. We navigate the blessings of growing older, how to age well, live fully with passion, purpose, relevancy, connection, and a good attitude. All through our laughter, our tears, our power, and of course, our changing bodies. We're not out of date. Our minds and hearts are curious, inspired, wise, and brave. With longer lifespans now, we spend more years as seniors than ever as kids. So we've got to get this right. After all, no one's getting out alive. This is going to be very exciting today. We've got a really intelligent, very well-spoken gentleman named Ken Stern, who used to be the head of public radio, NPR.
Yeah. How did you get him?
Well, our associate producer read his book and was blown away about it.
Oh, I know why we're blown away. I'm just wondering why he agreed to do this.
Because he didn't know anything about us.
Okay, fair.
He really didn't have a clue just who we are. Now he might be reconsidering.
Maybe. Too
but
late.
I don't know if he'll be back, but we hope so. Because
we hope so.
He's written a book called Healthy to 100, How Strong Social Ties Lead to Long Lives. And
it's really a fantastic book.
It's got the mission of the book and the conclusions of the book are exactly my personal philosophy. So I found somebody who agrees with me in life.
Well, right. So you're just stacking the deck with the guests for
well,
anyone
that's
who
what
agrees
I
with
do.
You. I know, the
Why
5
not?
people, right. No.
I don't want to give an opinion or anything.
No, you would never.
No.
No, but no, the book is really, I mean, of course, someone who was in charge of NPR for many years, were imagining they would have a good book. But it really, I think, is such a fantastic, perfect topic for your podcast.
He's the founder of the Longevity Project, which fosters public conversation on the impact on longer lives on civil society and engages a global audience through events, research, and newsletters. But he's associated with Stanford Center on Longevity. He's an award-winning podcaster called Century Lives. We'll make sure he mentions that. And he's written for Vanity Fair, The Atlantic, Slate, New York Times.
So he's a little smart.
He's smart and he's very well-spoken. And he went out and did a lot of research around the globe to determine how are those countries where people are living into their 90s and staying engaged, what are they doing that is different than what we do in the United States?
What can we learn? How can we set up things differently? How can we not only make individual choices, but how can we set up structures and cultures and society in a way that's, going to be better for everybody?
And he says it very well, and we're very honored to have him join us. It was a nice get for us.
It's a huge get for us.
I know.
Yeah.
So we're going to now bring here
by Zoom,
right now, Ken Stern. Jess, as we said, here is Ken Stern, the founder of the Longevity Project and the author of an amazing book, which I hope you'll hold up the book and show us. Do you have it there, Ken?
I don't. I did not come. Did not.
On our show.
I spent my career in the media, and I don't even remember to bring my copy of my book.
I tell you this.
Losing your edge. Well, I'm pretty sure we can add. We can add in post.
Well, so it's Healthy to 100, How Strong Social Ties Lead to Long Lives. And it just came out in October 2025. That's right. How's it doing? Are you on any bestseller list? You should be.
So I should be. But so here's the interesting thing I found. This is my third book. The first 2 books I wrote, one of them was a bestseller, but it sold a lot and then stopped. It fell off a cliff because it was a book about politics, and there are a lot of political books coming behind it. This book never made a bestseller list, but it's chugging along really well. It's selling as many copies now as it was in October. So I'm excited about that.
It doesn't become less relevant, right? It's going to be relevant in 10 years, 20 years. Yeah, so politics kind of is of the moment, right? And then this will be more evergreen.
Well,
that's right. I think this will have a long life.
I think
all of us will.
That's right. We're lucky.
I think it's going to get more popular because it's very well written. Here's what happened. I read this and I said, this is on the nose how I feel about longevity in life. What made you an expert in longevity, aside from the research you did here? What made you so interested in it?
So I started getting interested. So like a lot of things in my life, I got interested in on sort of happenstance. I mean, I got interested in aging because I was getting older. That's sort of part of the story. But about 7 years ago, I was at Stanford and I met a woman named Laura Carstensen, who's a professor at Stanford and the founder of the Stanford Center on Longevity. And I thought I was going to have a conversation with Laura about aging, which I think to me at the time and most people at the time, most people now, so thinks is, what do you do with all these old people? That's sort of how I think we talk about aging in this country. She wanted to talk about longevities. How do we reinvent the entire life course so that people can have longer, healthier lives? And that was like, for me, it was sort of just a new lens on the way to think about life. And it got me very excited. And I've spent the last 7 years now focusing most of my work on longevity and understanding how we can all do better, both individually and collectively in terms of healthy living.
No doubt. I mean, and you write about it so well. And then you went on this walkabout to these various countries to learn those that have people living the longest. You went there to find out what the secret sauce was. Yeah. So tell us about your journey.
So I wanted to ask sort of a fundamental question. I think the average life expectancy in the U.S. is about 79. That's actually just last year actually broke the record of life expectancy in the U.S., which had been sort of falling for a while and finally came back to pre-pandemic and all the way back to 2013. But that's still way behind every single one of the advanced economic of our advanced economic peers in the country. 6.5 years less than Japan. In Japan, just to give you a context, the median life expectancy for a woman now in Japan is almost exactly 90, which is an extraordinary thing. Which, think about it, if a woman dies at 89, you don't say that's a long life. You say bad luck now, because that's less than.
I guess I should eat more sushi then.
Yeah. Well, but there's a whole story to it, and so I wanted to understand sort of the differences and why. But I do want to say, we talk about life expectancy. If you actually look at healthy life expectancy, the amount of time we live in good health, it's almost a decade difference between us and other countries. And I wanted to understand some of those differences, especially around the topic of social connection, which is at the heart of what I think of as the American life expectancy disparity.
Oh, agreed. And so what countries did you go to?
So Japan, mentioned that. Singapore, South Korea, Spain, and Italy. So those are 5 of the longest lived countries. They're not the 5 longest lived countries in the world, but they're countries that I think exemplified from my research, countries that are thinking differently about the second half of life and how we can have longer, more purposeful lives.
It's interesting. You found there also that they respect seniors, the aged, more than they are respected in this country. Yeah. I mean, we have found a discrimination between, with seniors are not as valued, if you would, as they are in these other countries culturally.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about, for instance, the consequences of ageism. So the U.S. has been described as the most ageist country on earth, and I think there's a research to back that up. And you can see it in the workplace, where a lot of older workers get pushed out before they're ready. You can see it all sorts of ways about how we talk about aging, and it has enormous consequences for health. Becca Levy from Yale has done research on the health implications of aging, and turns out if those who have poor views of aging and being old tend to live about 8 years less than those who have positive views. It turns out that if you think the second half of life is about declining and death, it comes at you pretty fast. These other countries, I think, have both traditionally have a culture that celebrates aging much more than we do, but also I think really importantly, all these are super aging countries. They have much higher percentages of older folks, and they've come to the conclusion that they need older people to be active, engaged, productive contributors to society, not takers. And they've sort of restructured society to support that.
Do they have Social Security there like we have it here in those countries?
All those countries have pension systems mostly better than ours.
Here in this country, people didn't retire. You live with your family, the family generations live together and you work together. And if you were older, you didn't okay, it's 65, I'm done, I'm sitting on the front porch. You didn't do that here. You kept busy. And my personal philosophy is just aligned with what you've learned. It's intergenerational connection on an ongoing basis and staying as busy and involved as you're physically capable and you have the desire to be productive, to keep going. Not to say, okay, here's an age here. Okay, drawing the line, I'm done. Now, you grow up expecting that. So you think, okay, I'm going to prepare for retirement. For me, that was the whole issue why we're doing this whole journey of aging is I didn't know there was a line or a number. I didn't accept that. I figured they're going to carry me out one day horizontal and I will stop working. Yeah. So tell us what you've learned. What are the key points and more about the workforce and the negative attitude or the positive attitude and the difference it makes? To me, that's number one is attitude.
Yeah. So I wrote about work and sort of the sense of purpose with respect to Japan. Each of those countries I went to, I sort of took a different piece of how do you support social connection and purpose in the second half of life. In Japan, I focused on work because Japan, in addition to being the oldest country in the world, has the highest percentage of older people working, highest percentage of people over the age of 65. Wow. Yeah. So that means it's a lot because there's just a lot of older people there. And it's not by accident. And it's not because of economic need. They have a stronger social security system than we do. 80% of the older workers in Japan say they work not because of financial need, because they want to, because it gets them the house, it gives them purpose, it connects them with other people. And I saw lots and lots of people like that. I think the key thing is society supports that idea, right? The norms of society are that, hey, it's a good thing for you to keep working. It's good for you. It's good for all of us. And then they have secondly restructured the work opportunities to make it easier to work on conditions that the older generation wants. So a lot more part-time work, a lot more job sharing, a lot more assistive technology, just a lot of ways to make working in the second half of life something that works for an older person, not just for the companies, which is, I think, how we think about it here.
I'd love to see that in this country, wouldn't you?
I would love to. I mean, unfortunately, I think the truth of the matter is American companies still associate sort of younger people with being cheaper, but also being more technologically savvy, faster. Many of those things aren't actually true, but that's sort of the way companies and society talk about older versus younger workers. I think that will change. I think one of the things that changed Japan and other places was economic necessity. They have a shrinking traditional labor force. They need older workers, and all of a sudden they begin to think older workers might have something on the ball. I think
that's what I was thinking is that their birth rate has been really low, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
So there's been room and a real need, right? And actually, this is maybe the height of comedy was me living in Japan when I was younger as a almost 6 foot tall blonde young woman. I was kind of I was like a sideshow. But anyway, something that I noticed, and I don't know if you saw this too, Ken, was just the structure of how not just that older people are respected, but they are really integrated into daily life, and that families do a lot together. And the grandparents have a really, really strong role in families that I don't see as much here.
Yeah, so I think that's actually a really interesting observation. One thing I read about in the book, and others have written about too, is the importance of intergenerational relations to health, both healthy aging and to child development.
Yeah, healthy young people too.
Exactly. Yeah. We've sort of built a culture that actually divides families. It's still the norm. It's breaking down a little bit that if you're over 21 and still living at home, you're considered a little bit weird. Right. And then, Judy was telling me that you're doing an episode on the villages. Well, they don't have village, 150,000 people over the age of 55 living without any younger people around. That's a very uniquely American concept. They don't have places like that in most of the world, and certainly not in places like Japan, because they believe in the concept of keeping the generations together. And it's a mania in some places. You go to Singapore, I mean, they are crazy about keeping generations together. It's, government policy, social norms. You can't actually, in Singapore, the government owns most of the housing. And if you're under 35 and unmarried, you can't get an apartment. They give all sorts of incentives, even if you can get an apartment, they give all sorts of incentives and priorities to keep people families living near each other. So it's, real.
You can't get an apartment here either because there's nothing available, but
yes, a different concept. Yes. But
different concept.
Could be a supply side issue, but yeah.
And so I know you ran a National Public Radio as CEO for years. How many years were you there?
So I was there for, I think, about 9 years. The last 2 as CEO. First 7 as COO, Chief Operating Officer, and the last 2 as CEO.
That's pretty amazing. So you've heard a lot of interviews through the years and on the whole gamut. And why did this subject particularly hop up for you, even though, we're all aging? Because I say on the back of my mug here, I always say, be grateful. If you're not aging, you be dead.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the options. So really, your own journey and why did this particularly interest you? Have you been a caregiver for parents? Why did you want to look at this?
Yeah, so I've had all those experiences. Part of I've been now through the sandwich generation, still raising a son, but my parents have passed on. But that was part of my journey as well. I think there are 2 things to mention that, in addition to sort of the uniquely interesting challenge of an aging world. The world's changing. The demography of the world is changing. There are a lot more people who are going to be older. You mentioned plunging birth rates. That's happening everywhere in the developed world, including the U.S. There's going to be a lot more older people because of longevity, and a lot fewer younger people. So it's actually, people talk about climate change and all sorts of really important issues, but you don't talk enough about sort of the demographic tidal wave that is reshaping how we live. And I think that's a uniquely important question. The other topic that really I focus on in the book is around social connection. Which again, I think is sort of the loneliness crisis, the wave of disengagement we have from civic life that is going on, civic and community life. I think that's a really important issue. It's actually one I wrote in my book about politics, because I think sort of the disengagement that we have from each other is a political polarization issue. And now it's sort of the other side. It's also a personal health and civic health issue. So those are the things that really just sort of stirs my interest in the topic.
Oh, absolutely. And strengthening the social connection. How do you do that in your own life, Ken?
Yeah. So personally, work is a big focus. I'm 62. I think
You're
like
just
you,
a puppy.
yeah,
You're
exactly,
just
right.
A puppy.
And that's what I like to think of myself as. I think most of my peers are sort of thinking about winding down, stopping working. And I think, we were talking, Judy, I don't really know how to do that. I don't want to do that. That's what would fill the days. I've spent the last 40 years with family and work being the real focus of my sort of centerpieces of my life, and I don't want to change that. So I think figuring out how to continue to work, how to contribute, is going to be the focus of my social connections. I still have a son at home. He's a senior in high school, so that will change in a few months.
Congratulations. It will change, although a lot of kids are coming back home now, and it's a mixed bag. You can love it and because they're there, they're not gone, and you can enjoy them. And the other thing, they need to go out and create their own individuality and have their own life.
Yeah.
Some kids move across the country. Some people stay in the same city. You don't want to let them. Is this your last child?
Last and only. So
last and only. Okay.
yeah. So that's a big thing, big change.
That's a big transition you have coming up.
I do, and frankly, I worry about that for
of course.
change, and I can't say it's one I'm super excited about, but part of my passion is thinking about social connection. So I think I'm going to use the extra time to not just build my social connections, but try to figure out ways to help more people be socially connected, especially in the second half of life.
Well, what we've been talking about through the episodes in this in our season is how to stay involved, whether it's physically involved through games, and senior games that they have in many cities and across the country, how you play an instrument or you join a band, or, some are in a band or played an instrument when they were younger. Some take up new activities. I joined Rotary. Okay. I didn't know, nobody invited me here in Chapel Hill, and all of a sudden they did. And I love it because I get to give service and I meet, like-minded people. We don't talk politics. And they're interesting people who also have been living their lives. And, again, I give service and I try to stay involved, and I got this crazy idea to do a podcast. Yeah. Okay. And here you are. And now we're connected. But it has helped me. Everybody works with us on the podcast. It's intergenerational. Everybody has a different point of view and comes from a different place. And we're all learning from each other. And I think it's important for everyone, let's say seniors, but even pre-senior, Gen X, like you, old lady. Yep. She's 47. She's got 2 young kids at home. You wrote the article in the New York Times. I'm 62. Stop telling me I'm old. You're not old. You're as only old as you feel or as your attitude is. And if you have, I've said this before. I get up every day now and I say, this is the best day of my life. Yeah. I am grateful for everything I have, and I'm going to do something good for somebody today. And that gets me out of bed and gets my juices going. That's my mantra and commitment. And then I want to go, I stop people on the street. Hey, can I do something good for you? I'm kidding. I don't do that. But yay, stop the car. I want to do something good. No, but it is attitude. It is movement. You talked about movement in your articles and in your book. Keep moving. Now, if you want to sit on the porch, you get to do that too. And I know people read good books and are going to live a long time. Me, I watch a lot of television and media and movies because I love that more than read a lot of books. Okay, so I'm trying to live out what you have learned, because I didn't know culturally there were a lot more older people in Japan and these other countries. I just figured if I stop, I will get old.
Whether you found that in research or you just intuited it, you're absolutely right. One of the reasons that loneliness is physically debilitating, there's a biological response, but I think there's also a correlated response. If you're socially connected, you're out, you're moving, you're physically engaged with other people. We all know that movement's important, but if you're socially isolated in loneliness, you just move a lot less. So that's one of the values of, hey, if you're going to go volunteer, you don't generally do that from your living room or your porch. You're generally going someplace, you're physically engaged with people, you're doing things that are probably a little bit different than what you do if you're just at home. All those things are really important. And it's the positive energy, volunteering is a great way to stay active. Lifelong learning, we don't have a culture of lifelong learning. I wrote about that in South Korea, where it's a constitutional right to
I love that. How cool.
And people don't do it digitally. They go out to classrooms all across the country.
Yeah. Although 26% of all education now is digital and growing.
Yeah.
This because I'm involved with an AI company that is teaching people with AI online, and more of it's going to happen, and that's a reality. But
that's a challenge, right? Because it's a challenge because you can all think of all sorts of use cases. I mean, take COVID, for example, where online learning was both critical and necessary. But but we also saw the impact of that online learning on kids during
wasn't
COVID.
healthy.
And it's the same.
I saw it up close every day at my house when I was trying to get a second grader to get on a virtual learning platform. And I do not recommend it to anybody, actually. But, I think there's, a small number of kids who benefit, right, in certain ways for certain things. But yeah, I think we are isolating ourselves more at every age, right? Because of the screens and the phones and all the things. But Ken, I was curious, are there places in the US, because, I think if we haven't gotten to do the travel that you've done looking at this issue, it can feel a little theoretical. Or we don't know what good looks like. And I know for my dad, before he died, he really believed in intergenerational living, but it's not easy in this country because we're not set up for it, right? And so it can lead to a lot of isolation because you're not in a senior community. There's not as many opportunities. So have you seen things in the US that you think kind of hit the mark in terms of the evidence that you have for what good looks like?
Yeah, lots and lots of great things going on in the U.S. So there's one of the things about writing a book, you go to these other countries, say, oh, that's fantastic. You come back to the U.S. and say, we got it all wrong. The truth of the matter is we do a lot of things right, but often small scale, and we don't make it generally available and generally known. Right, so can I tell you a story, if you don't mind?
Please. We love stories.
So you talked about place and the importance of place to healthy aging there. So I did for my own podcast called Century Lives. I did an episode we're doing actually a season on how do you house an aging nation. The first episode was half of it takes part at a 55 plus community called Latitudes Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett themed community in Panama City.
Whoa.
And the other half
I've seen the videos, okay? And I've thought about it because I knew Jimmy Buffett before he was Jimmy Buffett. He played at a bar, a little sandwich shop I had in Gainesville. On Friday afternoon, he came with his guitar and he put his guitar case out and we gave him beers and all he wanted to drink and eat. And he played for quarters before he was a big star coming through Gainesville. So I'm a big fan. But
so you're a parrot head before there were parrot heads.
Really.
Right, yes. Your original parrot. So that's an example of sort of one of these 55 plus communities growing rapidly. The other half was at a place called Gorham House in Gorham, Maine, which is a nursing home with most people in their 80s, 90s, and hundreds. I interviewed Miss Mary there. She's 106, and it has a preschool in front of it. So it's a joint preschool nursing home. And if you ever want to see sort of human joy, you see the parade of little kids going through the nursing home and the connections that brings between the old folks and the young folks. But the most interesting thing was not how delighted and important the little kids were to the old folks. It was the preschool teacher told me that the elementary school teachers in Gorham have told her that the most empathetic kids in their classes are the kids who come through the Gorham House preschool because they're used to differences, right? So if a kid shows up in a wheelchair at this, in the elementary school, all the kids don't know what to do with it except for the kids from the preschool because they're used to differences. They've seen it. They know different ages. They knew different approaches to life. So they're more empathetic. They're developing faster, different, better than the other kids because they have those beautiful intergenerational relationships. And that's, I think that places like that really give me hope that we can.
Yeah. It's so interesting because a lot of our retirement situations are 55 plus. And yes, your grandkids or your kids can visit, but don't keep them around too long. Where there's the gift, there's the good stuff is interacting. I mean, Jess and I are friends and I spend time with her kids who are almost 10 and almost 13, a boy and a girl. And they are, delightful and brilliant and they're innocent and they just have so much authenticity about life and ask questions that would embarrass if an adult asked them, and the kids adapt. the kids now, they don't have the same prejudices they used, that a lot of kids grew up with and stuff, because they just don't care what color you are, whether you're gay or not gay, whether you're in a wheelchair or not in a wheelchair. It's just irrelevant to them, because they mix in community, which is good for the kids, but it's also good for the senior to be able to learn from and share that joy. It's not like you lock these people away anymore. It's important. And how can a senior make that happen in their life? How can they create an intergenerational experience or lifestyle?
Yeah. So some of it's about choice of where you live. So place matters enormously in how we age and how we're socially connected. So a little bit is about where you live. Do you go to a community that's only 55 plus, or do you go into an intergenerational apartment house or something that it's about some of the activities we talked about, lifelong learning. There's actually lots of ways to go back to school. We don't do it very much, but there are actually places at about 100 American universities called OLLIs, which are set up to integrate older folks. It's the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute.
Duke has it.
Well, how do you spell that?
Well, it's OLLI. They're called the
OLLI.
Yeah.
Duke has it?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's very cool. Yeah. And I think a lot of it's free.
So what does that mean? That seniors can go back and learn things for no cost, or they pay a fee?
So it depends on the school. So, but the interesting thing is, roughly half of American states by law make their state universities free or low cost to people over the age of 60. So there are actually lots of ways to go back to school for low cost. And of course, there's all the community colleges, which are low cost to begin with. There's an entire education system set up that's available, but it's not a cultural norm for us to go back to school and interact with other generations. We don't think we don't think about it.
I think I think unless you do it intentionally, it's not comfortable for people to show up in an undergraduate lecture, right? Unless they've been invited. And I think, expecting people to show up in a space that's not really intentional for them is probably a hard sell for most people.
Yeah. I think that's a very astute observation. That's right. So like Korea, I mentioned, in virtually every neighborhood in most cities has a lifelong learning center, which is intentionally sort of welcoming to all generations, but really are sort of thoughtful about older folks and their interests.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like here, I live in Chapel Hill, where University of North Carolina, UNC, and there's Franklin Street. And oftentimes I'm going there for an event or something, and I go up and down the street, or I go in a restaurant, and everybody's a student. And I kind of go in, and I'm certainly not their age. And so I try to talk to them. Of course, they think I'm some nutty old woman, Oh boy, give her $1 and maybe she'll move on down the road.
But Judy, you're not the average senior, let's put it that way. Yeah. So most seniors are not going in and hanging out with the college students. But I think, as someone who teaches the college students, I think they actually love when people from the community are engaging with them. It's just we don't set it up in the right way. Are there changes that you've made in your own life based on the research? Are there ways that you're trying to set yourself up for living in the way that you've seen works well?
Yeah. So I think there are a couple things. And one thing, it's changed my way of thinking about, I'm not the life of the party. I'm not the one who's going to start talking to someone at the bus stop. That's just not my style. But social connection it really doesn't have much to do with personality. It's really about putting yourself in places where you're going to find people who are interesting to you and you might be interested in them and you can spend a lot of time with. The research on how do you make friends is about proximity. I think it's actually a professor at the University of Kansas who's done sort of the most interesting research on friendships. 80 hours of being sort of next to one another is sufficient to be a friend. 200 hours is to be a close friend. It's why actually kids make friends that last a long time. It's not because they're necessarily friendlier. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but they're next to the same people day after day, year after year. And that becomes the basis of friendship. So the question is, like, as I think about, I can't sit in my house and expect to make friends. The world's full of lonely people waiting for other people to make the first move. So I'm going to plan how I'm going to be it's going to be about working, and how do I continue to work, as Judy's been talking about. I don't want to stop. How do I continue to do that? I'm in my 60s, maybe my 70s, who knows, maybe my 80s. Where do I live? Do I live in a place which actually creates community by virtue of design? So I don't want to live in the suburbs where, it's your house is set back and there's no sidewalks, because you're just not going to, bump into people. So it's decisions like that. Maybe I'll move to a place like Mirabella, which is actually a senior housing complex on the campus of Arizona State. There are places like that.
Wow.
That exist in growing numbers, that put you in places where you're inherently going to interact with people of different generations. So I think those are the places I'm looking at for.
So you're going to be like pledging a frat, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah. I went to a college without frats, so this is my second time.
It's never too late.
I'll make it this time.
Never too late. You can get in there with the beer pong anytime.
Well, there was it was a Will Ferrell movie called Old School. I think that.
Oh yeah, one of my faves. Okay. I always thought
we still reference that movie at our house whenever something is happening where we think everybody is following us, and then maybe they're not, where we say we're streaking and it's only
right.
Frank the Tank, I believe. Yes.
Yep, that's right.
No, I used to think, well, maybe when I get older, I'll be a house mother at a sorority house. And then I thought, well, maybe I should just go to school and join a sorority.
That's right.
And, teach those young ladies something.
So I'll tell you this story. So there's a guy I actually interviewed for an Instagram account that we run called Grand People, which is the stories of people in the second half of life doing interesting things. So he's a guy who always had the desire to play tuba in the LSU marching band. This is something he wanted to do.
I've heard about this guy. This is great. I love this. Yes, please continue.
So he got 2 college degrees, but not at LSU. He had raised a family, he had a job, he retired, and he said, you know what? I can matriculate at LSU. They actually have essentially free admission for sort of general studies for older people. He's in his late 60s, and I'm going to train and try out to be a tuba player in the LSU marching band. And he did, and he made it. It's actually, think about it, it's actually a lot. I mean, the tubas are heavy. You got to march with it for 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd march with a flute. I could probably lift it up.
Be a little triangle.
What?
A little triangle.
Which brings me what you can lift. Okay, when I was living in Texas on this property out in the boondocks for a number of years, I needed a rifle to be safe, because there could be critters and things out there. Anyway, so
I'm trying to picture you with a rifle.
Trust me. I had a pistol. I had a pistol.
Yeah.
Boys back home in Florida taught me how to use a pistol. Okay. But now a rifle. Okay. So they're heavy. They're really heavy. I'm not talking machine guns. Those are ridiculous. It's like lifting a car. But this was like a rifle. So I had to get a smaller one that I could actually handle. You have to adapt with age. You know how it is. And so I had a rifle. So speaking of, I'd go with a flute. That's all. Tuba is very brave, Okay. So I like this Grand People on Instagram. I want to mention that for our listeners. Look it up. And I'm going to follow it, by the way, because I love stories of people who are adapting to the here and now, to the present. We don't have the past. We don't let it be a tag on us that we have to be guilty about the past. It's gone. We can apologize. We can do better, but let it go. We only have here, and hopefully we'll have a future that we lay the groundwork. And that's what this whole journey of aging is about. How do we make these decisions that are unique to ourselves? Each of our listeners has a unique life. There are different ages and stages. So I want to see these stories, because hopefully I'll learn something. And that's where my mind is so open right now. When you talk about this place in Maine, that sounds really fabulous. Gorham, it's called, what is it called?
Gorham House in Gorham, Maine.
Wow. But see, it's cold weather in Maine. I can't go there. So I don't like the cold weather.
So you should start one of these in a warm
That's
weather.
right.
Yeah, I like that a lot,
That's
actually.
exactly right.
I lived in California 30 years because there's no humidity like where I grew up in Florida, and it isn't really that cold, even when it gets cold.
Well, I go to Maine in the summers. You know that.
You
Oh,
do?
yeah. We've gone to Maine in the summers since I was
Maine's
4
gorgeous.
years old.
Well, it's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
I grew up in the summers in Vermont. My grandparents were there, and everything was there.
There's not a lot of people are not flocking there for retirement for a reason.
Well, because it's cold.
Yes, right.
And when you retire, of course, you could have a place if you can afford it in one town, south and north or whatever.
Ken looks skeptical about our.
Yeah, he doesn't like.
Well, so I was just thinking, do you know the state with the highest percentage of people over the age of 65?
Texas.
Maine.
Yep. Oh, percentage. You mean per capita?
Yeah,
percentage.
Florida's number 2, but Maine, which you'd expect because people move there, but Maine is number 1. Yeah. So there are plenty of older folks there.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I just don't hear of a lot of people like going that direction.
Right.
That may be about their demographics of the state generally, right?
I think that's right. That's right. It's not a retirement destination. Right?
No. Yes.
Now, Chapel Hill, I will say, I learned something from the Chamber of Commerce, head of the chamber, who said that more people are moving into Chapel Hill who are older.
For sure.
And there aren't enough young kids. They're actually thinking of closing a couple schools.
Well, it's happening all over the country, actually, but yes.
What are we going to do with those schools? I think we should get the schools and turn them into senior living with children, okay?
You would have to have enough children. I'm kidding.
I know.
No, I think we are experiencing something that a lot of public school districts are experiencing across the country, and that is that we do have a lot of people, the people who are coming into the state, there are a lot of seniors. There are good reasons for that. And generally, there's no state in the nation that I know of that's doing a great job planning for kind of the seismic shifts in the demographics, but we're really trying to adapt and figure out what it means for us. But it's a big challenge, right? And we love our seniors and we want seniors. We also want families with kids so that our schools have, aren't closing down, right? But I mean, we can't change the birth rate. So, here we are. Well, I guess there is policy out there that's trying to do that, but that's not my cup of tea. But I think it is an interesting question, right? Is how do we create spaces that work multi-generationally also so that we're not only planning for seniors, because that is not really what strong communities are about. It's about having everybody. Right?
Having everybody. And one of the things I came away with in your writing and your articles that you wrote for the New York Times, you write for everybody. You're just very, you have good stuff. And that's why we're grateful that you're here with us today, Ken, that you took the time to be with us. Is the arbitrary nature of determining that 62 or 65 or any age particularly is the time to retire or call it a day or stop working. And I agree with your premise. Obviously, I'm living it. Okay. The problem is technology is here, AI is here, and even the young people are going to be out of jobs soon. Okay. Or a lot, not today, but it's coming. Yeah. It is foreseen. Whether it evolves to that is a guess, but it's a pretty strong guess. I bet that a lot of people in a lot of jobs won't have them.
I'd argue that it is here in some places.
And so I'm hoping it will create more jobs too. But for seniors who would like to still work, you mentioned that, they're forced out of the workforce by the employer and by young people who will get paid less. Okay, they need to get a job. They're getting out of college and they don't have work.
Yeah. So I'd actually argue, if an employer would listen to me, that in the future, where a lot of jobs are going to be displaced by technology, human-focused ability, social skills, wisdom are actually going to be more valuable than less. It's not going to just be about technological skills. It's going to be about people-to-people skills that actually are developed with age. So you could make you could make the prediction that the skill sets of an aging nation should be actually valuable in an age of AI. Who knows how it plays out? But that's not where employers come from. The number of people over the age of 50 say they've experienced or seen ageism on the workplace is, I think something like 70 or 80% say that. Mark Zuckerberg says, people are smarter when they're under 30. Now that he's 41, maybe he's rethought that. But, that's a view that you hear a lot, that younger people are smarter.
Maybe he just says that people are smarter when they're whatever age he is.
That's right. People under the age of 42 now are smart.
Yeah, that's right. Well, just, it's an endlessly moving goalpost. But I mean, I can tell you that, my students who are graduating with a master's degree are worried about the job market. Everybody is, right? And so it is hard to figure out in this time of kind of feeling really chaotic and like there's so much change, what are we doing? And what is the overall goal and policy framework that gets us to a better place for people of all ages? And I think that needs to include seniors, of course, because, how would we not take advantage of the skills and wisdom and kind of abilities of seniors? That's just a waste.
And a lot of seniors need to work. I mean,
yes.
They may have the pensions and keeping up with things and retirement, or changes in their work along the way and the cost of living. A lot of seniors need to still work. Yeah. And they want to work, whether they're able to or not. They need to find a job, and they'll go to work at lower paying things. But we're losing their wisdom, as you've talked about. So on one hand, we're not honoring them, and they're forced out of the workplace because of ageism in this country. For the most part, I do believe it's a truth. I believe that there is that. Although a lot of people don't feel that way, I think it's the majority. And if you're an employer, you want somebody who's vital and young, you can whip around, I don't have the same bandwidth I had when I was younger. No, I don't know many people, but we have a lot to give. We have a lot to share, and we want to keep learning. And so what do we say to a senior who wants to keep on working? How are they going to do that when the jobs aren't there?
Yeah. So first, let's actually, it's hard. That's a very hard conversation to have because the jobs aren't there. Though the fastest growing part of the labor force is people over the age of 60. Actually, it's people over the age of 80, but that's a relatively small number. But as a percentage, that's the fastest growing. Second fastest growing is people over 65. And that reflects both people wanting to work longer and people having a need. A lot of people, especially people in the lower income brackets, face a lot of financial precarity in later life, and really important that they have work opportunities if they need them. I think it's quite hard to find jobs. I mean, there are, I think that's why you find a lot of older people doing things like driving Uber, because they can sort of self-select into that. They can pick and good advantage of it is that you can pick your own hours and be flexible, which is actually a very attractive thing. But it's hard. I mean, we do not have a job system that is supportive of people over the age of 50 if they want to keep working. So, my message is actually focused on American companies that you better get with the program, because you're going to need those older workers, just because you're just not going to have younger workers anymore.
Yeah.
So we talk about here an option of where you're going to live, okay, in America when you're retiring or you're ready to sit down, or still stay active, but find a community where you can be engaged. And, when you're going to make a change. And some people don't want to make a change in their living. They want to age in place. Yeah. We're having guests on to talk about aging in place. They want to keep their independence. They want to keep their community. But if they're doing that and they're not getting out, how can this affect their longevity? What are the potential consequences of aging in place and not getting out?
Yeah, so we have sort of a norm. I think like 95% of people over 60 say they want to age in place. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard. I mean, and we sort of are conditioned to think that's what we should want to do if we can. And also the housing stock's often not ready for people with limited mobility. I think only like 10% of the the housing stock in the U.S. and we're not building enough fast enough. So there's a housing stock challenge. It's often, if you're in a suburb or an exurb or rural areas, often very hard to connect with people and services. So I actually pushed back. So last night I was with a friend, someone my age, whose mother is 88, or his stepfather just passed away at 95, and she's determined to stay in their big house that she's been in for 50 years. And I understand the attachment, but I was encouraging them to think, don't just assume that's the right solution. Don't, tell Ruth, I'll tell her myself, before you sort of
tell her on this podcast is what I think is happening.
But
that's
yeah.
I think you're going to tell her now, but yeah,
I will. So Ruth, think of other options, because I know a lot of people who've moved into sort of multi-generational apartment buildings and say to each other, say after they do that, like, why did I wait so long? Everyone has to make their own choices. I'm not saying that's right for Ruth, but I wouldn't foreclose it, because it's going to get harder in that house as she gets into her 90s, and physically harder. And it's also going to be harder to stay socially connected with people, because we just had terrible ice storms here in DC that basically shut down the city for 2 weeks. She couldn't leave the house. She couldn't see people. And that's a debilitating thing as we age.
Yeah. It is. So what do you think about kind of granny flats or, accessory dwelling units? Do you see people actually using those as a way to stay on their property, but move into like a small section, and then the larger section gets rented out to a family? Or is that not really something that people are thinking about or doing?
Yeah. So I think people are doing it. Communities are making that easier from a zoning perspective now to address some of the housing shortages we have. More anecdotally, I actually see sort of multi-generational families trying to do that. So maybe the grandparents or grandmother is in the granny flat as his name, and the rest of the family is in the main dwelling. And that's a way to have some privacy, but also community as well. But does that scale in a way? I mean, we have a huge housing deficit.
That's a kind of infill density solution that doesn't impact huge numbers of people.
Your work is tremendous. Healthy to 100 is the name of your book. How strong social ties lead to long lives. It's in hardcover. It just came out in October. You are associated with Century Lives from the Stanford Center on Longevity. That's tremendous. How often is your podcast?
So it's a seasonal. So it's a documentary podcast that comes out in seasons of 6. We do a season. We're in the middle of one on housing. That will finish in April, and then we'll start a new season on age tech, and then we'll start a new season after that.
I hope everybody will tune in and look for it. You are a delight. We really appreciate your coming on. I think you've brought very important information and an approach that I totally agree with. Okay, all the elixirs and pills I take aren't going to do it. It's going to be, and I take them. What you have written in your book are the real remedies to a good life, to living not only long, but living quality, more than quantity, living fully, making the most of your days, sharing with other human beings, because we are made to love, we are made to connect, we are made to be productive. And you really have said it with, you back it up with your studies, but you said it beautifully. And we hope our listeners will find you, and all of your information will be on our website. So anybody who's looking for you or to connect with you, they can find you through the Not Ready for the Farm website. Are there any parting words you would like to share with our folks?
So first, thanks to both of you for having me. This has been a fun conversation. Really enjoyed it. I would just say, the difference that I've noticed in people who age well and people who age don't is the people who age well think of the second half of life as important, as valuable, and as engaged to the first. It's actually not. I do a lot of storytelling around other people's studies, but the science is actually pretty simple. You just described it there beautifully, Judy. It's being engaged, being active, loving life, finding purpose, just as you did in the second half of life, is as valuable, important, as engaged as the first. And that's really I still want people to read my book, but that's the ultimate message.
Well, we
We're
can't.
still going to send people to your book.
Oh, it's great. It goes much deeper and longer and more stuff. So we thank you. We're very grateful for your expertise and your spending your time with us today. Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank
We
you. My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. That was a powerful conversation with Ken.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to share.
Amazing. Amazing.
And I am so grateful he came on to talk about how we can stay engaged and what to do so we can make the best attempt we can to live longer and live fuller.
Well, yeah, because here's my thing, is I don't want to live longer if it's not good quality of life, right?
Correct.
And so I think that's this huge piece of it, is not just living longer, but how are people really living well? And certainly there's a connection, right, between longevity and living well, but I don't want to be one of those ones who's,
Sitting around.
yeah.
Well, okay, so let me ask you a question. You're a professor at the UNC.
Yeah.
You're the mayor of Chapel Hill.
Sure.
And you have children who, one's about to be a teenager.
God help us. Right.
And one's about to be 10.
Yeah.
And, your son, and they're adorable and they're smarter than their ages. But you're going to go through this whole process right now with them as they grow up. But you also will be moving in the next 20 years. They're going to grow up, get married, do all this stuff. You're going to be an empty nester, you and Karthik. Okay, so what are you going to do with yourself?
I mean, that's always the question, right? Because I don't know that when I'm 60, I'm going to want to be doing, well, I know I don't want to be doing exactly what I'm doing now, but I know I want to be busy and I know I want to be engaged. And what is that going to look like for me when I'm 60? I'm not sure.
I know, because things change, expectations change.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things at boomers. We have habits that young people, the grandkids look at us and go, what is that?
Well, also the boomers' children, which is me, but yes, continue. And
Yes.
my kids, just to be
Yes.
fair, my kids also look at stuff that I do and they roll their eyes. So, I mean, everyone's getting it.
I go around and, of course, I keep losing my earbuds, okay?
Well, I do too.
I lose them, and so then
Yeah.
I just have to have the call, so I put it on speaker, and I'm going out in public, and kids, I call them kids. No, they have earbuds, and no speakers. They're
Yes.
and they're listening to
Yes.
podcasts like us.
Well,
We
just
hope.
like us, yes. They're listening to us all the time. My mom, I think I've finally convinced her to stop doing it, but there was a time, especially kind of on the earlier end of cell phones, or like maybe up until a couple years ago, it's hard to say, where she would talk on the phone in movie theaters.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! That's just rude. It's not generational.
It's a little bit generational.
And I know your mother, and she's very proper and very.
I know, but it's just that it's not like, she's just not tracking. It's not meant to be rude, right? But yes, and I do think it's slightly generational, because I think people who weren't born into technology are more likely to use it in unusual places. That's all.
I do this. I keep the TV on all day for background noise.
Oof.
When I'm working at home, I do. And younger generations, they would never consider doing that.
Well, your best friend, my husband, would keep the TV on all day in the background, but I just will turn it off because I don't want that nonsense.
And I print everything. I print it just in case. My whole life is just in case. But now with the cloud and the way you save things digitally, but
it's going to be accessible. There's no just in case. Like, it's not going to disappear.
I know, but see, that's a real generational difference.
Well,
right?
I will tell you that I do print certain things, not because I'm worried it's going to disappear, but because it is easier for me to read and it's easier for me to notate. And I know it's possible, but I guess I'm that bridge to everyone who's like completely paper versus those who are completely digital. I'm that middle weird one.
Okay, so that you're the middle weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you go to a grocery store and somebody's writing a paper check I now pay totally with credit cards or scan.
I barely ever see it, but if I do, it's not anybody under a certain age.
That's the point. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people take the check out while you're going, Or,
I love that
yawning.
you're the most annoyed by the practices of your own
okay.
generation. I really appreciate that.
I'm telling you, now people also, I carry cash on me. I carry cash. I don't know why I don't need cash.
I don't-
because it's all digital.
Yeah, I don't carry cash very often.
I wonder how many of our listeners
Most.
still carry cash.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Well, your generation, you're Gen X. Do you carry cash?
I mean, I might, but not usually. Oh, look, Jenna, the producer, is 23, and she's got
a wad.
Several
she's got
dollars.
She's got $3 over there. Big
Small
time.
bills.
Small bills.
Her
Okay.
generation is like very stressed about the job market.
We're poor.
Right. They don't have money, but she has,
Cash isn't real money though. Like, you
Oh.
know, when you buy something with cash, it's not coming out of my bank account.
true.
So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not, there's no negative.
It's just an extra.
It's extra. It's like
Yeah.
a gift card.
I mean,
Yeah.
I used to hear that you use a credit card, it's like paying twice. You pay it there, and then you have to write the check to pay off the credit card. The next like paying twice. So some people just pay cash or use a debit card. But, generationally, what do you use more, Jen?
Apple Pay,
Yeah. She's using her phone.
my phone.
Yeah.
Her phone.
Not
She's using her phone. She's not
See-
even using a card.
And that's way more advanced for me. Although I've signed up for it, I don't really ever, hey, let's do Apple
Oh,
Pay.
we've already had the conversation about you and the Venmo and the PayPal.
Yeah, well, I do PayPal.
I know but you said you got stuck on Venmo and walked away,
I did. I couldn't figure out how to. I
Yeah.
signed up for Zelle.
which is
and
what I
PayPal.
would do. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
but
get stuck.
that-
I would walk away.
If it's going to be hard, I'm
Yeah,
going.
I get that.
So, do you call people or do you text them first before you call?
I text first.
You do.
Actually, it depends. If it's people that either I'm kind of like, oh, I just need to grab them real quick and it's not a text conversation, but mostly I'll text, or I try to text in lieu of sometimes.
Well, everybody texts in lieu of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes it's, the younger generations don't want you to call them. They just want you to text them.
Well, I don't mind if people call me. I just might not answer.
It used to be you call people and you don't go to their homes. You don't knock on the door. And
Right.
today, I guess it's you text,
text.
before you even call.
Often.
That's like a whole nother layer of protection or generation. Okay. Do you watch the evening news at the same time every night?
What? No.
Okay.
No. What? What do you mean?
Well, I watch certain shows at the same time every night. I will not say which ones. News shows, as much of the news as I can stomach anymore.
Well, that's the thing.
But-
I'm also just not wanting to watch the news
Well,
at all.
a given.
But also, yes, I understand what you're asking, which is, do you have your show with your hosts that you tune into at the same time every day? And the answer is absolutely not.
Unless I record it because I'm not there at that time.
No,
Yeah. And
I
before
don't-
I gave up the news, I did that.
No, I don't do
Nobody does that because you can get it on YouTube, you can record it, you can do other things.
that. I've also decided that I'm just reading news.
Reading news. So,
Yeah.
all right. Do you save the good towels, the dishes, and the good furniture for guests? Or do you use them on a daily basis? Like boomers, it reflects pride, respect for belongings, the discipline of making things last. And I'm a little like that.
I don't think I have good anything. I don't think that I'm saving it. I just think I'm using what I have.
Well, I have given away already most of my good things.
Oh, I see.
I had this home in California with all this stuff.
Right.
And I went out, I had it for 14 years in storage because I thought I was going to use furnishing, all this stuff. And I went out 14 years later after paying storage and completely got rid of everything, except I did keep a thing, some little art and things.
Sure.
And you know where it's sitting? In storage.
Yeah, I know.
It is. It's sitting in storage
I
for
know.
2 years now.
Well, right. It's a good choice. It's
So
working
you
out.
come to my place, you don't get the good stuff.
Well,
because
I told you though, I did tell you that I have my my grandmother's good china.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing that I have that anyone else thinks is probably good. But
Do you use it?
maybe once a year.
Okay, so that's the point. That's
So maybe I'm a boomer.
maybe you're a boomer. So here's the thing: when people get married today, though, and they have a list, they want all that fine stuff in China. They have, don't they? Or
No,
are
I don't
those
think so. I
same
think they're
things?
just asking for dishes at all. Like
Right.
they're just choosing
I see.
dishes that they like for everyday use, and then those are getting used no matter who you are. You could be the Queen of England, or you could be us, and they're going to use those things.
Okay, so now, all right, boomers are using paper address books instead of digital contacts. I've moved digital. Okay,
I would never use paper for my contact list.
And
It's all in my phone.
do you have a landline?
No,
Neither do I. And that's,
because you're very hip.
I am hip.
Yeah.
I just have a cell phone. That's it. Okay, so there we are. So generationally, we are different.
Sure.
We have different values.
And yet we have overlap.
We do have overlap because there are a lot of things that boomers wouldn't touch that younger generations would.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that.
For sure.
Okay, but first, we want to suggest to our listeners and viewers to check into our website, get a mug. It'll be fun. We'll go home with you.
And this is actually your formal mug that you only use for the most important people.
Oh, totally. It's the only mug.
Yeah.
This is specially made.
Especially.
And I hand send them to people who,
Right.
this is not like some drop ship thing.
No.
No, it's
There's
in
a
my
lot of
place.
effort that goes into
Oh,
this.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so this will be your formal. If you're a boomer, you know. If you're a Gen Xer, I don't know if you know. But for every generation, this is a special mug. We don't know how much it costs still.
Well, you know, it's not going to be a lot. And
No.
we'll include shipping. I mean, we'll just send it to you because
Sure.
we would like you to have some of us. It's our only swag thus far.
Thus far. But
And-
this is the formal wear.
Oh, this is only certain people get this.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
From me directly.
Right.
Okay. And our listeners and viewers are very welcome to have it directly from me. Okay. Because
Dream come true.
it's my fantasy.
I know.
So we want to thank all of you for joining us today on another episode of Not Ready for the Farm. We've had a great time being with you. We hope we shared a little knowledge and inspiration and information, a little humor and a little inappropriateness. Okay, let us pray. And thank you so much for joining us for Not Ready for the Farm, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you. We appreciate you joining us here at Not Ready for the Farm as we navigate the journey of aging. Please like and subscribe and visit our website at notreadyforthefarm.com. Find us wherever you stream your podcasts.